Like, tell me about what it is. Like, why were you building this in the first place?
Yeah, so it's a 100% scale recreation or model of an actual unit. And so my customer wanted something that they could present to their customers, but then at the same time be able to, for their sales reps to be able to fit it in a car and carry it to location, because the actual thing is quite large, or it's this size, but it's quite heavy and it's very delicate.
Right. And I would imagine it's probably expensive too.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it's pharmaceutical, scientific equipment. It can't really be jostled.
Yeah. And so this is being used as like a sales tool then, is it?
Exactly. Yeah. So they take it to their customer's site and then they present it. So in this field in particular, they were having difficulties getting their customers to come out to their showroom to have a look. So they really wanted to take the showroom to them.
Clever.
Actually, I got a little presentation, so
Yeah.
I'll do share screen.
Yeah, because I'd love to know a little bit more about how you kind of designed and made this.
So this is a photo of the unit that you can see behind me.
Yeah.
And this is a photo of the actual unit.
Yeah, it looks very similar, doesn't it?
Yeah. Is this laggy for you?
No.
No? Looks all right. It's just a bit laggy on my side. Yeah, so this is a photo of the actual unit here. And so, yeah, so I went in and they told me what they wanted to do, which was present a version of it to their customers on site that their reps could carry around. So I took the measurements and did that discovery stage that you do in most kind of design jobs, and I measured everything up, and this was the product that we ended up with. So the really important part was that it was portable, because the reps have to travel, and these are actually being distributed around Australia. And so this is it. So this is the carton that it comes in. So to give you an idea of size, if you think about a large family pizza, but then think about the family size, not large, but family, and then a couple of those stacked on top of each other is about how big it is. And all told, it's quite light. It's about 5 kilos. So it's very manageable. It's a little bulky, but not so bad. It can easily fit into the back of a car or into an elevator, wherever a sales rep needs to take it.
So you've been able to design something that's normally 3D, and it obviously folds down and fits really neatly into a box of that size.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Amazing.
So this is the inside of the box. So it's a little hard to see because it's so white, but that's the base unit. So that's what comes out of the top. So that's this main part, and that kind of opens up like this.
Yeah.
So there we see it as it is. So that's a single part.
Wow.
And then as we start to assemble it, if you can see this dark line here, that's a magnet. So it's all held together by strip magnets, which are self-adhesive. They're stuck on, which means it just snaps together. And then when you're done with it, you just pull it apart. Like this, it's very easy.
Yeah, that makes it very easy to assemble, and it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Assemble and disassemble, because it's something that, you know, they're going to use and keep using a lot. So yeah, it's important that it goes both ways. So then as it starts to go together, that's this arm and then the head, and then these pins, sorry, at the back. I was going to point at the screen. I forgot this one was behind me. And then there's the head. So that's these units. So this is the 3D printed elements. So I've got one of the early ones here. You can see it's just white.
Yeah. How do you get it into metal?
Yeah, so part of the process is we produce a prototype, and then we take that in and kind of try and work out any details. And this was what I took in as part of the prototype, and I saw the real unit that this is based on sitting there, and it had all these different colors, like the gray and the metallic, and then the logo there, and it's just painted on. So that's a metallic paint, and then just
It looks so real.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the kind of paint you'd use on like a model plane or
I'm
something.
gonna say like a hobby craft.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic.
Just really lifted it, I thought, just that one little bit extra.
Yeah, looks really professional.
Mm,
And adding the logo there.
that's right, yeah.
Love it. Good branding.
So this is back into the box, and this was thinking about how it will travel. So we made this nested frame where all the pieces, once it's pulled apart, kind of slot in. So when the sales reps are carrying it around, it's not bouncing around and getting damaged.
Yeah. And is that made of polystyrene or something?
So the nesting bit, or the whole thing, is made out of stuff called kappa board or foam board, which is an evolution on the old foam core, which is very difficult to damage. And foam board, it's got a denser foam and a different laminating material on the outside, so it's much stronger than the old foam core used to be.
Amazing. That's great.
Yeah, so everything in this is made out of that. So you can see around the edges of the box for additional strength. We've got some going around the edge.
And you made all of this?
Yeah, this was all part of the one project.
Wow.
And so this is where we go back into the development stage. So the first stage is, as I mentioned, we go in and I measure it and I talk to them, find out what they do. And then we go to an industrial designer. And he puts together this idea. So this is just, okay, this is what we're thinking. This is how it's going to look. As you can see, there's no imagery, there's no branding, there's no anything. It's just the base concept.
Yeah.
So we do that, we get that approved. And then this was the first prototype, which you can see is pretty close.
Yeah.
There's a few things that are different. There's a little white 3D thing I mentioned. And I take this and I presented it to the customer. And we made a bunch of changes, or listed a bunch of changes. One of the easy things to notice is the blue is very different. It was a much lighter blue as compared to what we ended up with. And also these pins, which you can see, sorry, here, they weren't a part of it. So that was another thing that came up through this prototyping stage.
Amazing.
Yeah, so there it is. So it was pretty close. We were pretty much on it. There was a few things wrong, but yeah. So after the prototyping, we go to okay, here's the lessons learned. Here's the changes implemented. The artwork changed a little bit. We made space for these holes to be drilled because these pins actually, there's holes drilled in there and they slot in.
Come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, clever.
And then the 3D printing that we talked about earlier. So that's this little guy. And then you can see the huge difference between not painted
and unpainted.
And painted, yeah.
And that's the finished product.
Yeah,
so,
that's the finished product.
Yeah. So tell me, what's the length of time for something like this?
It's 4 to 6 weeks, really start to finish, with everything in there. There's quite a bit of development in getting it right, like in the industrial design stage. It's not something you can just do.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, there's a little bit of thinking, and then trying to make it work with the way that it, like the final execution and what the customer actually wants to do. And I think actually on my next, so one of the challenges as well with this was, because they're going to distribute it, is the people have to be able to assemble it. So we did a little video. God, that's always the worst frame. I did this short video. It's about 2 minutes long, and it just shows how to actually do it, like how to assemble it.
Yeah. So you're giving the client not only a product, but also the support in how to put it together, and it's a whole package.
Yeah, absolutely, because they need to be able to use it. And I'd hate to give it to someone and then they can't put it together, or they break it because they're trying to figure it out, or it doesn't work. Execution is so important, I think, with stuff like this. You got to make sure that the sales team can use it.
Yeah, for sure. And I would imagine, I mean, you know this product really, really well, but a salesperson getting it for the first time, they might not know that. Yeah,
exactly. It's not hard to do, but it helps a lot if someone shows you how.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the words that I had that I used to define it or describe it. So scale model, scale prototype, the minimum viable product model.
Yeah.
And so they kind of,
that's fantastic. The MVP is one of those things that, like, if someone is coming up with an idea or a concept to get it made, is it anything like the print industry where, you know, the difference between printing 500 and 5,000, you know, it's a quantity thing? Like, is that a restriction that you have?
Like for this kind of unit, quantity doesn't really come into it because you're unlikely to be producing enough for economies of scale to really kick in. So yeah, so it is really built around short run work. It is very hands-on.
Yeah.
But for someone who's developing something new, they might only want one.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking, because a lot of the time when it's just a one-off, the cost is so prohibitive. They, you know, I'm looking at our world as a graphic designer, and you're doing packaging. You know, if you're doing packaging for 500, it's a very, very different price to if we're doing packaging for 5,000. And it actually doesn't, it's not worth the client's time unless they are doing those massive scales. But I would imagine that the kind of industries that you're looking at here, being medical, for example, I'm sure that that unit sells for hundreds of thousands probably. So, you know, whatever the cost is to get these sales models up can be seen in their ROI quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, it does self-select to a degree with what the ticket value of what you're selling. But at the same time, when you're selling something that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, then like your market, you don't need 5,000 of them.
No.
You might only need 5 because there's only that many. Like I spoke to one marketer in New Zealand, and he had worked out that there was only 10 companies in New Zealand that actually buy the service that he sells. So when he markets, like the amount that he spends per unit can be much higher. He doesn't have to look at that, trying to drive it down so much. And
I would imagine now that they've got this tool to sell with, hopefully their sales go up.
Yeah, so I spoke to the sales manager yesterday, and they haven't been able to deploy it yet because of COVID. So we're actually still waiting to hear on that one. So they're all distributed and they're thrilled with them. But yeah, they're not doing face-to-face sales as yet. But I mean, as stuff starts to open back up, I think from now, I think they're going to be back on it, and we'll find out for real what the actual effect is.
Fantastic. So obviously the medical industry is quite a big one that would benefit from this. What other kind of industries do you know?
Look, I think building's another one that it could work for. Can you imagine showing up, you know, it's someone's interested in buying a house, and you show up with a box and you unfold a house, you know, on their table. Those kind of
corporate building, you know, huge big high rises, and I know they make models and stuff, but to be able to 3D print them and flatbed print them is it's a whole new way of doing things.
Absolutely, yeah. And anyone who's developing a new product that they may not be able to present simply because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'm thinking engineers as well.
Oh,
fantastic.
Having a prop in the room to spark conversation is a very valuable sales tool, because otherwise you're stuck looking at flyers, you know, booklets, or maybe you hold up your iPad and show a video or something. The ability to communicate and to spark curiosity and conversation is much more limited.
And as humans, we are so visual and we are tactile. So, you know, being able to look and touch and move and feel things and actually see how how big it is, how it represents. It's I think that's exciting. Yeah.
And I mean, if it's something you could do, I don't know, but if it's something you could even leave behind, like the old puppy dog pitch, like you can imagine, you know, one builder shows up and he leaves a card, and the other builder shows up and he leaves a house.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it could be amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. That's about it, I think, Deb.
Fantastic. Well, I think that this has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see where you're able to take this.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, let me know if you have any other exciting things that come up.
Yeah, I will, for sure.
Fantastic.
All right, thanks, Deb.
No problems. Bye.
Bye.